Welcome back to All Mine Ranch. I am Ryan, you're Ryan, we're all Ryan. Why? Because we all have improvements to make in our lives. Mine happens to be my homestead. The shell of a house that I need to be working on is my main focus, and 10,000 other projects. But you've probably got things in your life that you need to do to improve your life, to build your property, to build your homestead, etc. And if I can, I want to help you with that stuff. So that's why we're all Ryan. Okay, it's Saturday morning. Man, if you're anywhere in the United States, a big cold front moved in earlier this week. Everybody's been getting ice, snow, and if you're not getting that, you're getting freezing temperatures. Here in Bisbee, Arizona, in my off-grid homestead, it has gotten down to, I think, a low of about 18 degrees. Last night, I think it got down to about 25 maybe, which is obviously below freezing. So in this video, I want to talk to you about some new projects I've got planned, some new investments I'm about to make that are going to, I think, make this YouTube channel more interesting and exciting for you. And at some point, I'm going to work on my solar racks because over here, it's probably blurry and out of focus over here. I've got lumber that I worked on all weekend, last weekend, to build solar racks number 2 and 3, and this is my weekend to get it done, get it outside, get it assembled, get solar panels into it, get the solar panels wired up and functional, and call this project done. So that is a huge goal. It's a lot of work, but before I dive into that particular project, I am getting my water from rain, which I am pumping from big cisterns into a 350-gallon IBC tote, which then is connected to a filtration system, and all of that IBC tote and filtration lives in something I call my watershed, which is outside by my tiny house. Well, from there it goes, after it gets filtered, it goes from a spigot through a Camco RV heated garden hose that is screwed in, connected directly to the underside of my tiny house. But I don't have enough power or battery storage to have sufficient power to just plug in that heated hose all night, let it run, because it pulls like 500 watts. Now it only comes on when it gets below freezing, but lately, the last few nights, it's dropped to freezing at like 9 o'clock at night and doesn't get above it again until about 9 a.m. So I don't have enough capacity to run both that garden hose heater, we'll call that, garden hose heater, and to run my interior heater, my mini split heat pump in my tiny house all night. So something's got to give. So just to avoid risking, rupturing the garden hose, I've been draining my water lines by opening up the faucets in my house, emptying that, disconnecting the garden hose from the spigot, turning off a ball valve inside the watershed, and letting, as much as I can drain out, and just going without water all night. And that's no big deal. I fill a couple of pitchers full of water, for things like brushing teeth or, to have a glass of water. It's not, most of the time at night, I'm sleeping and I'm not using water. I'm also turning off my heater at night. And that means I wake up at, 5:30, 6 a.m., somewhere in there to get ready for my work day, because I work, online. I'm a remote worker. I work from inside my tiny house, and it's cold. So I have to get up and, turn on the heater, warm up the house, and I can't just reconnect the garden hose because usually something is frozen. So my first hour or two of every day has been about dealing with frozen water systems, getting heat, and attempting to fire up a generator that I can plug into my tiny house power system to help speed up the recharge of my batteries. And generators don't like to run when it's 20 degrees out. So it's been an interesting week. I've gotten through it with no major calamities. Nothing has ruptured, no pipes have burst, nothing like that. No emergencies. I've had enough power, but there's been some cold mornings where it took, 3-4 hours to get the house up to temperature. Most people, when doing a homestead, are on a tight budget. There's just so much to buy and invest in, and it can be a real challenge to figure out what's the highest and best use of your money. Is that too high? Kind of have to stand on my tippy toes here. Yeah, I'll call that too high. I'm over here by the south end of my south end of my structure where it's quite bright. Trying to warm up, be able to take off the coat. It's maybe 40 degrees inside this house. I'm about to start working. I will get warmed up soon, but I'm not yet, which is why I'm all bundled up. But yeah, doing an off-grid homestead is expensive. And while I'm not poverty stricken, thankfully I do have a decent income from my work in cybersecurity. There's just, I can easily spend $200,000 in the next 60 days on materials, windows, electrical components, fixtures, building out a garage, hiring contractors. There's just so much I could spend money on. And my, financial resources are not unlimited because I'm trying to do this, even though I have an okay income, I'm trying to build out this all mine ranch without going into debt. And that's probably a priority for you too. So I'm always looking for ways to be frugal, to save money. And I've got to make sure I'm putting my money into the highest and best and most productive use or form. I did a video recently about what's the highest and best use of your time and the importance of making a list of those things and actually checking in with yourself to make sure you're actually doing those things as much of the time as possible if you want to make, steady, good progress towards your goals. But that's true for money. You've got to put your money to work and find its highest and best use. And that holds true for me as well. So I will share that a portion of my annual salary is held back in the form of a bonus. Use the air quotes. Not really a bonus, it's my salary, but instead of just paying it out, week by week, or when I get paid bi-weekly, they hold it back, and then I guess if the company's not profitable or we have, if we have some financial challenges, they could just hold that back and say, oh, sorry, can't do it this year. Fortunately, they haven't done that yet, and I just found out yesterday I had my annual performance review, which is also a compensation and bonus discussion. So all that happened, and while I did not get what I wanted, I'm not completely pissed off either. And I do have a check coming in here in about 2 weeks that will allow me to make a couple of investments. I'm gonna keep moving around. Let's keep walking and talking. I have some income coming in here in the next couple weeks that will allow me to make some purchases. So I've been thinking through my wants versus my needs versus, materials I have to buy. How's that? Will that work? And I haven't made any hard decisions, but an additional rain cistern was high on my list, but the prices on the cisterns have gone way up. And so I either have to downsize my plans for the cistern or just delay it. Now, it's only February, and our rains really don't kick in here till July, August is when the monsoons really start to hit out here in Arizona, southeast Arizona. So my immediate need for more rainwater catchment, it doesn't exist. It's a luxury, and I'm still not sure if I'm going to do it. So I'm kicking around the options on a really nice plastic tank versus a culvert, a steel culvert turned vertically as a cistern versus, doing a pond. There's all kinds of options to get more rainwater into storage. And I'm still thinking through what my options are there. When I come to a conclusion, I'll let you know. But one of the big transformative things that I could be doing and that I plan to do here at All Mine Ranch, since I have 22 acres, is to start doing earthworks to shape the land a little bit so when those rains do come, the rains don't just run off and cause erosion and problems on the road that runs beside my property and actually gets embedded in the ground. I can't afford a full-size tractor, like a real tractor, backhoe type of a situation. I guess I could finance one, but I really don't want to go 30 grand into debt or more, 50 grand into debt for a tractor. So I'm looking for a compromise. And Harbor Freight sells a $3,500 towable backhoe. That's basically a backhoe that has a trailer hitch that you pull it around with an ATV or a truck or, whatever else you might have that could pull a few hundred pounds. And it's not massive, but it's got pretty good reviews. And people keep saying that those Harbor Freight backhoes for the money are probably one of the best investments you can make on your land. Since I have so many projects that involve creating trenches and doing berms and basins, also known as swales, and just shaping the land, and the soil here is extremely rocky. It's very dense, very rocky. There's a lot of caliche in it, which is like an aggregate type of rock that is as hard as bedrock. Just about a foot below the surface. It's not easy work, and it's backbreaking if you're trying to do it manually. You've seen that in some of my last videos where I just had to do some small trenches or holes in the ground, and yeah, it was a killer on my back. By the way, my birthday is tomorrow, so happy birthday, Ryan. You're turning 51 years old tomorrow. By the time you see this video, though, I'll probably be 51 and a couple of days old. Anyway, I don't want to do all that backbreaking labor, and although the Harbor Freight backhoe is $3,500, I will have it, and I probably won't have another opportunity to pay cash for it for at least one more year. So, and by then I'll have a need for it. So I may have to break down and buy a backhoe, but it's 16 feet long, and I don't want to leave it in the elements. So that gives rise to a whole nother project of a carport or a shed or a garage just for the backhoe. And I've got to figure out a way to do that so it's not going to conflict with my future garage plans that it's going to get built right behind this house here, starting with that third storage container that I've got, shipping container type of a thing. So I'm thinking through all of that, but I think the backhoe is going to happen. Also, that I think will be exciting and interesting for this channel is I think I'm going to buy a drone and start doing aerial footage of the land, because as I start talking through the earthworks and where I want to plant trees and eventually have like a greenhouse or raised bed gardens, I've got to have a way to show you that. And I still have many decisions to make about exactly what my landscaping plans are, what my earthworks plans are. Since I'm catching rain and going to be routing my gray water from this house out to the land, I've got to make some hard decisions about where that water is going to go to, because it does impact my plumbing runs and things like that. And as I'm making these decisions, and as I'm talking through and kind of explaining to you how I'm going to turn this, piece of dry desert scrub into hopefully a very green, productive oasis, so that hopefully it helps you. But I've got to be able to show that to you, and I think getting a drone would be a really good way of doing that. So I'm not going to invest a small fortune, and it'll probably crash and burn. So maybe I should start off with a really cheap one, like the cheapest one that'll do the job. I don't know. I've got some research there. So if you have any suggestions for a good YouTuber drone that I could use like once a week for just like a half an hour to fly over the land, and one that is just easy to use for someone who's never droned before, I'd love to hear your suggestions, because I want to make the right purchase. If it's a starter drone and then I upgrade, a year from now, that's fine. So I think I'm going to get a drone and a backhoe. And then also on my list, I can squeak it out, is I have 8 SOK batteries. They're 100 amp hours each, and they're in a series of 4, because each battery is 12 volts. And if you put them in a series of 4, and when I say series, I mean go from positive to negative, and put them in that configuration, the voltage rises with each battery you add. So since I have 4 of them, it's a 48 volt system. That's my point. I've got a 48 volt battery system. And then I took a whole nother string of 4 and put that in parallel to the first string. So I have, a 4S 2P configuration, and that's 8 batteries at over $500 each. So you do the math. That was a pretty significant investment. But as I talked about a few minutes ago with the cold weather and having to run a generator in the morning and having to make hard decisions about the judicious use of my limited energy resources, I've decided the single best investment I could make this month into making my All Mine Ranch off-grid homestead livable is to buy 4 more batteries and do a third series of 4 batteries and put those in parallel, and that will up my battery and power storage by 50% above where it's at today. But that's a $2,000 investment, and buying a backhoe, a drone, and lumber, and the batteries, and a cistern. I can't do it all, so I'm having to think through, like, what do I really need like this month And what's my cash flow going to look like for the next 12 months? Where am I going to have big expenses that I won't have cash for it? And all that. So, there's a lot going on in this little pea brain, this 51-year-old pea brain of mine, swirling around so that I'm focused on the right things, buying the right things, using my money smartly, and sharing all that with you to help you make decisions and get things done to improve your life. That's what it's all about. So lots of big changes coming, lots of fun projects. I've got to do some rearranging in my utility closet where the batteries are going to go. I think I'm going to take one of these. I doubt you can see it, but up there's 3 cabinets that used to be in my tiny house. They're just sitting in here doing a whole lot of nothing. I think I'm going to take one of those cabinets and actually put it out in my utility closet to replace a shelf where a bunch of just random electrical crap and supplies and solar stuff is sitting up on a shelf. I'm going to put in a cabinet, and then I've got to mount a sturdy solid shelf for that 3rd array of batteries because they're heavy and bulky. So I've got to do some rearranging and move some components to actually have enough room for 12, full-size batteries. So that's it. I'm going to shut up now and start on this solar rack. I'll take pictures. I'll film part of it. I don't know how much of that will end up in the video, but I'm going to get started, get warmed up, and be productive and finish that project this weekend. So let's go. Oh, one other quick thing I want to mention. If you've been following along with this channel, you may know that a couple of weeks ago I did a video on putting up signposts that say no hunting, no trespassing, basically stay the hell off my land. And I'm not sure that it's working because this morning I saw a white pickup truck go slowly by my house, and I thought, well, maybe it's the neighbors who live just to my north. It's a dead-end road, so if you're going down this road towards the dead end, you probably got a reason for being there. So I thought maybe they were just friends of my neighbors coming over for a visit. But then she called me about 45 minutes later and said, hey, did you see that white pickup truck going very slowly down the road? We don't know who that is. I think that was hunters. So they're basically just, I don't know how many signs they're ignoring, but we have signs that say dead end, there's no turnaround, private road, no trespassing, and now no hunting, no fishing, no nothing. And people are just looking at all those signs, driving right by them and continuing to look for areas in which to hunt. So if that keeps up, I know it's more of a winter thing since it's deer season, but I'm going to have to put up more signs, and I don't know, that kind of thing gets me really angry that people have the balls to come and attempt to hunt on private land. I was in bed when that truck went by, and it was cold in my house this morning, so I didn't hop up and go confront them. But if I'm awake and I'm dressed and I see some vehicle cruising by slowly that I don't recognize, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to run outside and confront and be a jerk and tell people to get the F off of my land or my neighbor's land, because we're all in agreement. No hunting around here. Unless you're a delivery driver, an Amazon or UPS driver, there is absolutely no need to even drive up our road at all. Now, technically, it's not a private road. I don't think we can legally put a gate down at the foot of the road, but we don't get much law enforcement around here, so I would not be opposed to putting up a gate or a chain across the road that says, basically F off, and see what happens with that. I'm trying not to be like too much of a jerk, but I just think people got nerve, man. So I just wanted to let you know it's still happening despite my signage. So I'm going to try to do more signage and have confrontations where necessary. Maybe I need to make a sign that literally says, if you're a hunter, fuck off. Like turn around or you'll be shot. Because that's basically how I feel about it. I'm not willing to go to prison and actually shoot somebody. But I certainly have no problem walking out there with a firearm on my hip or over my shoulder and being a dickhead and letting them know I'm not fucking around. Pardon the language. I'll probably get censored, demonetized by YouTube for that. But that's how I feel about it. This is my life. This is my property. It's their property. It's just unacceptable. I don't know how else to put it. And hunters seem to be a little thick-headed, maybe because they've been hunting on this land for decades unchallenged, but those days are over. I'm here to challenge, so just wanted to share that with you too.